Quick heads up, this will be covering the single player aspect of Halo, going over the campaign of the first game. It's a mixed bag. Being the first of the series to be released, it has a chance to start from a blank slate. The simple storytelling sets the foundation of the franchise in an easy to understand way. There's really nothing too convoluted or complex going on here. Gunplay wise, there isn't much else to say other than it's good. You have a variety of weapons designed to fill different roles, and while there's a couple of balancing issues that could be addressed, nothing's useless. Where the issues really come in is level design. The game has a strong first half and a weak second before finishing on a good note. The first half with the Covenant feels like it was planned and thought out. With close quarters and open range battles against different compositions of enemies, you can think and approach a situation with a strategy in mind. The latter half of the game though, with the Flood, feels more like it was rushed. It features levels that you've already done. Couple this with the Flood being more of a mindless horde, and it makes the game wear on your mind much more than the first half does. I'd say though, the game is still worth a run through. The revamped visuals made the game look great, and as I said, the gameplay and story parts are still really good. Higher difficulties are fine for the Covenant, but it makes the game feel more like an endurance match at the end, at least against the Flood. With that out of the way, get yourself a beverage and we'll go into more detail about what's up. Halo is a game that always got my attention in the video store as a kid. At the time, I could only afford one console, which for me was the PlayStation 2. But I always wondered about this game in the Xbox section, with this guy in a green suit, this big stamp Halo on the front. It wasn't until years later when I would get a PC at home where I would actually get to try it. The thing I remember leaving the biggest impression on me was the title screen. With that space setting, that huge ring in the background, who can forget the title screen music? It really says it all. It leaves you with this sense of awe, like, whoa, what is this? That was all on the original version though. This version that I'm playing is the re-release on the Master Chief Collection, which doesn't have this title screen. It does, however, have 6 Halo titles, so if you ever wanted to get into the series, now's the best time. Before I get into the campaign, I'll cover a couple of things first, starting with the graphics. They've done a really good job updating the visuals of everything in this game. It's actually amazing the difference. You can compare yourself on the fly, switching between the original and the remaster styles. The original does look quite bland and hasn't really held up as well as I thought it would. There's some indoor areas looking pretty stale and plain. The remaster, however, looks great. There has been heaps of detail added to areas that would pretty much just be a blank slate. There's new lighting effects, new character models, and redone particles. I found that the remaster brightens up the whole game. Areas that would be dark now have much more lighting, with some areas even changing the time of day. You won't need your flashlight much, if at all really. The only thing I noticed on it is that there's these strange grid-like shadows that can come up on characters at times. Not only have the graphics been remastered, but the sound has too. The new sound effects sound a bit more crisp than the originals. The soundtrack's been redone, but both the sound effects and the music stay faithful to the original. I did find the original has a more spooky feel to it than the remaster whenever it got to those sections. With these though, you can really take your pick of what you prefer. And what's great is you don't have to have the original sounds on the original graphics. You can have the remastered sounds on the original graphics if you want, or vice versa. The music is fantastic. The soundtrack for Halo is one that's very iconic. It has orchestra, there's scary atmosphere music, there's rock style action themes throughout the game. I can't really fault it at all, to be honest, both the remaster or the original tracks. Gunplay in Halo is very good. Weapons look and sound the part, with a decent variety to go through. Each weapon has its purpose, such as energy weapons taking out shields faster than physical ones. There are some weapons that stand out a bit more, either good or bad. The battle rifle, for example, I found is just a bit too inaccurate. At range, almost any other weapon is better, and up close, the shotgun's better. Still, if you want to use that weapon, you totally can. It's completely viable. Now that I've got a few of the more obvious things out of the way, let's get into the campaign. The Pillar of Autumn serves as the introduction to Halo. We're dropped into the game with relatively minimal explanation.
Man, here's where we show those split-chin, squid-head sons of bitches that they could not have picked a worse enemy than the human race. We are going to blow the hell out of those dumb bugs until we don't have anything left to shoot them with. And then we are going to strangle them with their own living guts. Am I right, Marines?
Sir, yes, sir!
Damn right I am. Now move it out. Double time.
We're fighting these guys called the Covenant, and we found this huge ring. We're introduced to the three main characters really early on: Cortana, Keys, and us, Master Chief. You get a feel for the controls and a few different guns here fighting your way out of the Autumn in order to escape. The mission is quite short, being based around close quarters combat, corridor fighting, taking cover behind objects, and being able to get real close to your enemies so you can bash them. Down on the ring, you'll notice that the game has now exposed you to wide plains, letting you get a feel for what open combat from a distance is like. We're also given our first chance to drive, which is in the Warthog. Driving will automatically point the car in the direction you're facing, rather than turning the wheels from one side or the other to steer manually. It's pretty drifty at the start, but it's easy once you get the hang of it. We learn more about the combat encounters we might have, going from tight indoor battles to wide open combat, and also the ring itself.
Halo.
This style of combat and storytelling continues throughout the game, drip feeding you information, enough for you to follow coherently without any large pauses to explain. It's much more of a show and tell just a little bit, rather than just tell everything. Environments also go through changes between close and open battlegrounds, bringing you to new scenery and different compositions of enemies. Seeing as the game is just a shooter, keeping the bad guys and the levels unique, along with effective narration, will play a really large role in keeping the player interested. Difficulty wise, I played through in Heroic, which felt like a good challenge for this first set of levels. It is harder with more spawns, giving them more damage and whatnot, but it doesn't feel unfair. You have unlimited continues, not even having to go through any menus or anything when you die. You just get dropped off right back at your last checkpoint ready to roll. Level design throughout the first half of the game, there really isn't too much to fault. Stage 3, the Truth and Reconciliation, can feel like it's a little bit samey, as much of it takes place inside these purple corridors, and that's pretty much the only colour you see throughout that whole level. Stage 5, Assault in the Control Room, is a pretty long stage, and while there is some variety in it, there are these small rooms that repeat just a bit too much for my liking. Out in the open, you get a really good mixture between different vehicles to pilot and fight. However, these small rooms feel much like you just run in, shoot whatever's in there, go around the rim to find the exit. I'd be fine with a few of them, but fighting through 11 of these was just too much. By the end, I was over it. Just take me somewhere different. Now, we're just past the halfway point onto Stage 6, 343 Guilty Spark. Right at the end of the previous level, we were told the Covenant found something on this ring, and now we've got to stop Captain Keys. You can tell right off the bat that there's a different feel to this level. Instead of clear skies and daylight with support troops, we're coming in dark in the rain all by ourselves. The Covenant is spooked, and we catch a glimpse of something running up there on this cliff. You know that there's more to it, it just doesn't really feel right. You're more cautious now going into this mission than you have on the others. Inside, everything seems to be pretty normal, going back to mowing down the bad guys. But oh shit, wait! Now we run into this guy who's shooting bullets at you, screaming that all his friends are dead. Now we really know that there's something wrong. We can feel that the game's going from what was a full-time action shooter into something of an action horror shooter. While you don't have this big feeling of dread and helplessness that is in full-blown horror games, that uneasy feeling is definitely there in your mind. Something that, before now, was never apparent aside from maybe some music cues earlier. I mean, look, everybody else just runs away from you. But in here, it's a bit of the other story. Going in deeper, we find a record from one of Keys' Marines. It's here we find out what's going on when we see these new swarming things, a species we find out that's called the Flood. Up until now, our only enemies have been the Covenant. They're creatures we can relate to in some ways. They use spaceships, they've got a hierarchy in their military, they speak, use guns, have emotions, use tactics, they're bipedal, there's a lot going on that they have in common with humans. Because of this, even though they look threatening and they are technologically threatening, they're not exactly a scary species. The Flood, on the other hand, is much more like an unstoppable zombie horde of parasites, barely resembling whatever the host was and making these awful gurgling noises. You can see why the Covenant are running. You have to fight your way back out, now against the Flood who are overwhelming the Covenant. These guys don't mess around, they just run right at you. They move really quick and they hit hard. Couple this with the small infection form crawlers swarming you and large amounts of combat forms, your only option left is to simply run and gun everything you see. Stand still, you're dead. If you get surrounded here, you're dead. If you get a shotgun, take it out and just start blasting everything you see. You do link back up with some Marines on the surface and look for an evac, all the while still being pursued, when you come across a small floating robot called 343 Guilty Spark, who teleports you off somewhere. As an introduction to something bigger than just the war between the humans and the Covenant, I really like the way this was portrayed. It's pretty jarring compared to the rest of the game. The first you hear of it is right at the end of the previous mission from Cortana.
No, that can't be.
So it comes up really fast and you just head straight up into it. There's only a few small clues leading up to the confrontation. It's a good build up and it's in line with the horror genre, building up that suspense before reaching the peak. It's like in a movie when you don't know exactly what's happening out there, but there's probably a monster or something somewhere going on, there's people disappearing, and it slowly builds into that oh shit moment, and then the struggle after to fight or escape. Now up to this point, I'll say that the game's been great. I may have mentioned some things about Mission 3 and 5, but the rest of it's been good fun to play through, even on Heroic. With this new development now, with the Flood, the rest of the game must be even better, right? Well, now we're on to Mission 7, the Library, and you can probably tell that here things are starting to get a little bit hazy. Guilty Sparks brought us here to recover the index so we can activate the Halo. This mission is all about fighting the Flood, which is fine. They were introduced in the last mission, so now we'll be fighting them, possibly as, the main enemy. It would make sense for how much of a threat they've posed. Well, in this mission, you'll find out why they are called the Flood. These guys are endless. Almost. And you know what else is? The stage. You know, when I first heard him say that, I actually thought he was joking. Or we didn't need to go through that many doors. Somewhere in there, I thought we'd have something to break up these doors. In here, all you'll be doing is blasting the Flood, moving on to a locked door, wait for the locked door to open, kill more Flood while you're waiting, move on, repeat. The biggest problem is the level design. I know I mentioned that Stage 5, Assault on the Control Room, had 11 rooms that were similar to each other, but it's broken up in between because of the large areas where the gameplay can change it up a little bit. In this, it's the same thing over and over for a long time. The sheer number of Flood does not help. And yes, I know that them being called the Flood would not make any sense if there was just a handful of them, and that my difficulty heroic does make this worse, but this is pretty over the top. And the numbers wouldn't even be that bad if they weren't too hard to kill, but they're pretty tough. It feels like they should have had either the increased spawns or higher health from the difficulty, but not both. It's just wave after wave after wave in the same rooms against the same shit. It's less about strategy now because run and gun is the only thing you can do, and more just an endurance test trying not to get blindsided by a shotgun, carrier form, or grenade chain explosions. Each of these can kill you outright. This mission also introduces you to the worst Flood form of the lot. This guy with a rocket launcher. Your first encounter with him is being shot in the face or the back as soon as you pass a corner. Well, there's only 2 or so of these guys and that's it. So we're all good now. Nothing to worry about anymore. Yeah, nothing to worry about. I feel that if this mission was shorter in length, that would really help it out a lot. Next, we're on to the Index, and we get transported back to the control room again. We find out that Halo is actually designed to wipe out almost all life in the galaxy, not the Flood, and now we need to find a way to destroy it. Remember what I said about Mission 5? I've only mentioned it like 4 times now or something. Well, guess what? Mission 8, 2 Betrayals, is just Mission 5, but backwards, wow! And now with the Flood and the Covenant. So, get ready to go through even more than 11 of those rooms, as we now have 3 generators to destroy, which happen to be in the same style of room. Great. This is the longest mission in the game. Fighting both the Covenant and the Flood really drags it out, and you might be thinking you can leave them alone to fight each other, but the AI really has it out for you. If you come across a battle, they will become friends and they will try to kill you together. The Banshee hates you, the Flood hunts you down, just don't try fight everything. Where it's possible, it's best to just go for some form of transport and get out of there. But man, do you remember what I said about the rocket launcher guy? Well, he makes a comeback in this mission, and he comes back in droves. It feels like there was a quota of rocket launcher floods they needed to fill before the end of the game. They put 2 in the last mission and then put the whole lot in this one. They hide in groups, behind walls or rocks, around corners, on bridges, anywhere that they can shove a rocket right up your ass without you seeing anything. It never feels fair dying to these guys because you can't see it coming, unless you know where they are or where they hide beforehand. It's like trial and error. Go around this corner. Oh shit, a rocket killed me. Go over the bridge. Oh shit, a rocket killed me. This tunnel here has anywhere from 4 to 6 of them. A set in this group of Covenant and Flood fighting, another set behind these rocks, and the last ones which hide just around the corner at the end for you. Like, do you think that's enough? Of course it's all dark, and with all this stuff going on in here, you can't tell where they are or which ones they're supposed to be, so just stay all the way back and shoot everything. If you go in, you're gonna die. Eventually, we reach the next mission, which is just more backtracking. Yes, you better get used to it. This time through what was Mission 3, the Truth and Reconciliation. No rocket launcher floods in this one. Instead, they've been replaced with grenade explosions. This level has places that spawn infinite flood and likes to pack areas completely full of them, so there will be grenades all over the floors. Due to the tight nature of the corridors, one explosion can light up the whole section and kill you. So you better just charge through, right? Well, the carrier forms like to hide around corners and down little holes in groups just to bomb you, and yes, they set off grenades as well. There's not really much else to say. It's just an endurance test with trial and error, know where the carrier forms are, and trying to avoid these explosions. There is one part where you jump out of the ship, which is a nice change, but it's pretty short, and after a while, you go straight back in. Now we're on to the last mission, the Maw, which is more backtracking, yay! Now we're going through the first mission again. To be fair though, coming back to the Autumn doesn't actually feel like the others. It actually felt nice to come back, since it was the very start of the game, and now it's the very end. It doesn't suffer as badly because of its shorter length, and even though it's close quarters, there is room to avoid those chain explosions. To blow up the Autumn, we gotta go to the engine room. From here on, it's all new content.
Okay,
Even though it's just the ending and it's pretty short, the game really needed it. Before heading in though, it's definitely worth picking up the rocket launcher from the armory. Trying to take out those reactors with grenades will not work anywhere near as consistently. Save yourself the pain. Platforming isn't exactly this game's strong point due to the low traction and almost no ability to control yourself in the air. When jumping across ledges to aim at these cores, just do your best to not fall off. Like before, you're best ignoring what you can and going straight for the objectives. It's more infinite spawning enemies in here. After much fighting and core exploding though, you can finally move on to the final chase. Unlike previous parts of the game, this is more like one big getaway run where you'll be killed by your driving. Yes, you will be shot at, but as long as you stay moving in the car, you should be fine. There is one moment near the end with Echo 419. She comes in to evac you, but is taken out by Banshees. It's pretty sad seeing as she's been with you from the start of the game, being your main transport throughout, only to be taken down right at the very end. You do eventually escape though, and then it's on to the ending cutscene. Like I said at the start, it's got some good and some bad parts. All the Covenant stages are good fun, from start to finish, even with the parts that can be repetitive. The Flood stages, however, start out good, but it's more of a wow, new threat feel, as later they become very repetitive and just a chore really. The level design is definitely a factor here. Fighting through the same levels we already have feels like plain lazy or rushed design to me, and it really doesn't help when 3 out of the 5 Flood levels is just backtracking. 4, if you count your first encounter with them, and that's just fighting back out the same way you came in, only now against the Flood. In fact, you might as well just count the library too, since that whole mission never changes. By the end of it, you might as well just be fighting through the start anyway. So every Flood level is too repetitive, but this fault also falls on the enemy design. The Covenant are fun to fight because of the different ways that you can approach them. When fighting a crowd of, say, grunts and elites, you've got choices. Should you try to take out all the grunts as fast as you can because of their low health, or go right for the elite? If you go for the grunts, you'll be under constant fire, but you can take down their firepower fast because of how low their health is. If you go for the elite, he's going to be harder to kill, but if you get him, you'll break the enemy and they'll be fleeing. Now you can fire at them without having any threat of return fire. Grunts will throw grenades. but Jackals hold shields and will fire plasma-powered shots that will drain your shield in one hit. Enemies will take cover, so you can't just sit there and shoot them, you might have to be the one to engage. Even with hunters, should I try shoot between the gaps in the armor from a distance, taking advantage of their slow speed? Or should I try go in and shoot him from behind? Do I lure one in and hopes his partner fires at him? Or do I lure them both in so I don't have to worry about the cannon? The Flood throws these options out the window. It's just stay away and shoot. They don't take cover, they don't do any tactics, they just run at you shooting or swinging. Pair this with the level design and by the end, I'm over it. I'm burnt out. I will still say though, that this is a good game. With my crap to the side, the Covenant stages really are that good. I was having a ton of fun playing through the first stages of the game. I really was. That part of the game is great, and that's what really captured Halo's sort of experience, I guess. It's interesting to note that even though this was the first in the series, they had a greater story already planned out. The game starts in the middle of a war escaping from Reach. The Ring is mentioned as Forerunner tech. There's the obvious one, which is, no, I think we're just getting started line, which is at the end. One that I never picked up on, I don't even know how I missed it, is Guilty Spark mentions that this Halo is installation 04. And he mentions,
but once the others follow suit,
while talking about the ring activation. Clearly there's more than one ring. With all this foreshadowing, it really surprises me that the game was shipped the way it was, at least the ending anyway. I can only guess they must have had the Xbox launch deadline come up way too fast. So I looked it up. I found out that, according to Halopedia, because of the switch to the Xbox platform instead of PC, and to first person instead of third person, 90% of the game was made 9 months before it was shipped. In September 2000, they hadn't even started work on the campaign. And this was all with a team of 40 people. The Xbox was shipped in November 2001, so these people managed to somehow cram together a game in that time frame. At least now it's more understanding why the ending is the way it is. If the finish sounds too tedious for you, just drop the difficulty on the Flood missions and chuck on the bandana so you get infinite ammo. When I did this and just started shooting, just really destroying everything in sight, that made those missions a whole lot more fun. It's a shame really because the early levels are really good. It just falls off a bit at the end, that's all. Either that, or just watch a video of the story for an introduction to what started everything. I've got one right here.